Bob Pollock from the Extension Service on the line with us this morning. And later this morning, I'll be talking with Greg Brown of the Pirates. A little hot stove action. I don't know if we call it a hot stove or a hot house when we're talking about plants and things of that nature in the wintertime. Our conversation brought to you by Marcus and Mack, a law firm representing injured people. And you can give Bob a call at 479-1160 if you have a question. Mr. Pollock, good morning.
Good morning.
Are we gathered around the hot stove in the hot house?
We could be. That would be a good place to be this morning.
Sure it would. Sure it would. You think people are starting to, I know they're thinking about it, they're starting to get the little pots and things out and start planting some things indoors with the anticipation that someday this will all be done and we'll be able to get out there again?
Yeah,
a little bit early?
I'm sure.
A little bit
you
early.
Have to.
Now. Yeah.
Right, yeah, for some things, yes. And other things, especially if you're starting them or growing them indoors, or you're going to put them in a greenhouse structure or some protected structure, you can get started early because you'll have it heated and the days are going to continue to slowly get longer each and every day. So that's a good thing. And
now those
get
people
the balls rolling.
Those people that don't have an actual greenhouse, even a small one or one of those plastic greenhouses, but they have a sun porch or an area that gets a lot of sun that's protected from the cold weather, are there any special considerations they need to make as they put some plants out and try to get them started?
It just really that it's warm enough to do it. That's all. Because that's going to be the big limiting factor, because we can, in most cases, we can supplement with light if we need to. Some seeds don't need light to get started. Others do. So just kind of learning about the plants that you want to grow and start from seed. Mm-hmm. And then trying to, of course, we always try to match that up with the environment that we're going to be growing in, or the timing piece of the puzzle. When do we want these plants to mature, or when do we want them to be ready to set out? Mm-hmm. So we've got to look at our weather and do some predictions there of, well, geez, when's the last freeze going to be this spring?
Yeah.
Is there going to be one around Memorial Day, which is traditionally when we really feel that it's safe to go gangbusters and get everything out there and not have that risk there that we could get a freeze to kill things off that are tender.
I don't
so we just have to kind of play around with that and look at and forecast when you want to plant and how you want to do it and when you want to harvest things, and then back that up by how many weeks that it takes to, if you're starting from seed, how long does it take to germinate the seed, and that can vary a little bit just because of temperature and conditions and moisture. You might have, it could be really short. Do you use bottom heat? Because you don't have to necessarily heat a whole structure for a little bit until you get things germinated. You can actually make, and they make these for home gardeners too, but just a heat mat that you can set the flats on, and it provides bottom heat, and that gives just enough temperature to heat the soil, warm that up, and allow those seeds to germinate.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that you keep one of these. I know my neighbor keeps a very extensive day-by-day journal and has since the 1950s of what the weather was like on a given day and temperatures, highs, lows, and all of the different conditions, rains, falls, and snowfalls, and everything like that. But if somebody isn't keeping that journal here in Pennsylvania, are there online resources that enable people to say, okay, an average for the last 5 or 6 years of when was the last snowfall, for instance, or when was the last frost in here? Are there those sorts of resources out there, blogs and that things of that nature?
Yeah, there are ways to get that information, especially going through NOAA, NOAA, maintains all that weather data. That you can go in, and there's some things you have to, the more detailed you want to get, and you might have to subscribe to something, but there's still a lot of information that's available there where you can kind of look up past data and get a feel for some of those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, without, yeah, and then with that, you try to pick locations that are as close to you as possible, because some of those weather stations, they might be far enough away, or you might be in a microclimate that is different. It might be a little warmer, it might be a little colder. So you have to kind of take that into consideration when looking at those numbers.
I wanted to ask you this as well, because it's something that can be done now in anticipation of when the grass starts to grow again, and that is getting the blades sharpened up on your mowers and getting all of your yard work mechanisms into good working order. How important is it to cut your grass with a blade that is really sharp and will make a nice clean cut?
Yes, that would be a best management practice, most certainly. And now's a great time, even though it's still winter, now's time to, if you didn't get a mower serviced last year or last fall, or do those fall maintenance things so that it's going to, while it's sitting all winter, now's a good time to do that. Or if you need to take it somewhere to get that work done and have it gone over, do that now, because that makes it a lot easier for the repair and maintenance shops to schedule that in. And because invariably what always seems to happen is, oh, I got to cut my grass tomorrow. And then you try to start your mower and it doesn't start.
Mm-hmm.
And then you think the place where you take it to get it fixed is going to take you right in and service that mower while you wait.
Everybody else waited until now too, though.
Yeah.
So you're in line
right.
then.
So it's not, that way everything's checked out, prepared, ready to go, and you don't have to worry about that.
But the blade itself and its sharpness and what it does to grass as it goes over top of it, you want a clean cut. You don't want to fray it, right?
Right, that's right. Yeah, because a dull blade is just going to kind of rip and tear. It's not going to make a nice clean cut, and that's what we want to do, because what will happen is when you get tears in that, and even though you may look and, it mows it, it still cuts it off, but you'll get some browning there because it was torn versus snipped off.
Yeah. Okay, so
and
so
then,
you need to do
that
that.
Can be a place where some disease can get started, et cetera. So that's just, we want to have a good clean blade. It lets the machine run better also. A dull blade, it has to work harder to cut. So then that's a little more wear and tear on the engine over time. So we want to have that nice and sharp.
I would assume the same is the case for hedge trimmers as well.
Yes, especially if you're operating those with your arms. It's much easier to snip with any kind of clippers that have a sharp blade.
Mm-hmm.
The duller it is, the harder it is. And then you also damage, especially with, if you're just shearing off tender growth, that's one thing. But you still can get tearing with a dull blade. And then if you're with hand pruners or loppers, where you're trying to remove a branch, that most certainly can cause damage where you made that cut and damage the bark. And then that doesn't heal, grow that callus growth over it as quickly or easily as it does when we have a nice, clean cut.
Yeah, if I go outside right now and look at my trees for dead branches, or in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to see some branches that have buds on them and some that do not. Should I be getting rid of those ones that do not right about now?
Sure. Yeah, anything that's dead or appears diseased or crossing over branches, just depending on the tree and its age and how fast it grows and how many branches are in there. You can get a lot of new growth. Some things like crab apples are an example that put on a fair amount of growth every year, and they'll overdo it. And so you'll end up just like on a bearing apple tree that we're going to get fruit off to eat. Those ornamental crab apples are still in the same family of plants and can get pretty weedy with growth every year if we don't go in there and selectively remove some of that wood.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Anything else going on in the world of horticulture with which you are so primarily concerned?
Well, there's all kind of things going on. Next week is the Mid-Atlantic Fruit and Vegetable Convention, which is going to be virtual. So that programs will be going on Monday through Thursday next week, and whole different format for that. I think it actually requires more effort to make that all happen, and hopefully everything will go well with that next week. And there's also a lot of opportunities that people can tune into that. If you have gardening interests, there's webinars and things that are just like an hour long that you can watch over the lunch hour, or other programs that are available by going to extension.psu.edu. You can actually subscribe on there and pick areas of interest to you, and then that'll prompt then when programs come up or when news comes out or articles become available, then you'll get notice of that. You can kind of keep in tune with and sign up for things when you would like to.
All righty. Good plan. All right, sir. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate the visit. Day. We'll talk with you next week. It's the Voice of Indiana County, WCCS, 101.1 FM and AM 1160.